Hey, good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. I'm so glad to see you. I'm Dr. Robin Gould. Welcome to the program here on Messianic Lamb Network, and I'm so happy to see you. Today is April 6th. It's the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. I'm happy to be able to go through a little tiny bit of the portion today and kind of flesh out a couple of attachment pieces that I feel like are really important. And if you're not familiar with me, I am an attachment specialist and I read the Bible through the lens of attachment, which I believe is how the Bible was actually written. So I really enjoy doing that. I hope that you will find a lot of joy and a lot of connection because we are now in Shemini, which means eighth. And there's a lot of significance to that number. We'll talk about that. But before we begin, I always like to remind you and make sure that you understand and can fully embrace and be present. And remember that no matter what is going on, what will be going on, what has gone on today, last week, whatever is going on, the future begins now. And whatever you need to change, you can change now, or at least you can change the way you're thinking about something, which is what leads to changes in your life. So I would like to always help you to embrace how loved you are and always be forward moving into our destiny, into understanding God, into the attachment that we need to really be able to embrace and to be comforted by and strengthened by, because I know that when the Father knows we trust him, that brings him joy. And the joy of the Lord is our strength. So that is how we get our strength. So anyway, future begins now. We're going to jump right in here. And I guess I have sort of a arc of a question for us to operate in today. And the question is everything going to be okay? I think that's a question everybody is asking on some level. Maybe there's people don't admit that they ask that, but I think every human going through kind of the strangeness of now, we ask that question, is everything going to be okay? I feel like this Torah portion today, for whatever reason, really sends me that message, even though it might seem like the opposite, but I want to kind of share my perspective that yes, everything is going to be okay. Actually, everything already is okay. And God is still on the throne. So let's look at first, before we get into just the little nugget of the portion I want to talk about, because, like an hour goes by so fast, we can never really quite get through all of it. But the number 8. So it talks about the 8th day here. So the number 8 is interesting. And there's many great blogs and articles you can read and teachings. Dr. Alyssa Aylwine, they teach a lot about this number and what it means. It's a very significant number. So 8 is really the number of infinity, right? So it would be the number of Yeshua, right? So 6 would be the number of man, 7 would be the number of God of perfection, and then infinity, right? Which is the 8th day you do the bris, which is the cutting, which is the covenant, cutting of the covenant. But it's the first day of eternity, really. Even the 8th day is really the first day of, I guess I could say, a different realm or chapter. We have the 7-day week, and the 8th day is also, like Dr. Aylwine teaches, it's really the first day of the next phase. That's not exactly how she words it, but that's my take on it. But let's look at what's happening here in this portion about this day. Where I'm actually going and read just this little part because it's a part that people struggle with. People struggle with Leviticus, period. They just struggle. A lot of people don't understand sacrifices. They don't understand, not that I do understand everything, but I understand the principle here. There are people that really feel like, why would this God want dead animals to make him feel good? Okay. And it's interesting because a lot of the people who kind of go there are meat eaters. Meat makes them feel better. But for whatever reason, God's mean. But of course, a lot of the meat that was sacrificed, some was burned and completely consumed. Some you would eat. So there's different ways that this was all handled. And I'm not getting into that. And I would say Rico Cortez is my temple guy, right? And of course, D.R.E wrote amazing books. But it's really great to go and learn about the temple. And I would go, Wisdom and Torah, go there and learn about these sacrifices. But I have something with having to do with attachment that I want to kind of flesh out with you today a little bit. And so here we go. Ready? We're going to be in Leviticus 10, and we're on verse 3. Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took a censer. They put fire in it. They put incense on it and offered strange fire before God. Now, prior to this, there was instructions and a description of this being done properly. And now you're getting this report of the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, right? They did what we call now strange fire. That's how it's often commonly termed. He offered strange fire before God, which he did not command them. Now, when you learn from Rico or other people that teach properly on the temple, they really make sure they lay the groundwork for you to understand the sacredness and set apartness of the temple. It's a very special thing. Levi means joining, right? This is where the Father comes near to us and we come near to him. And it's a special thing, very special. I don't even know the word thing is going to work there, but it's a mystical, mysterious experience here that's very ritual, very prescribed, and has got to be done a certain way, not the way you say to do it or want to do it, but the way he says specifically to do it. We are to specifically honor, obey, and walk out his commandments. It's very important that we do so. The whole universe was created on truth. The truth is the Torah. When we break Torah, we walk against the whole universe. And when we enter into this sacredness with what we think we should do, I'm giving you a hint where I'm going here. That is absolutely wrong, not good, and will have devastating consequences. It has to. For something to be set apart, it also can't also be common. Okay. So they offered this strange fire before God, which he did not command them. Now, a fire went out from God and it devoured them. And they died before God. When you look this up in Strong's, the word before actually comes up two different ways, like as face, panim, like facing God. And then also it comes up as a word with a lamed, I believe. It's like before God. It's interesting, and I'm going to study that more. But it devours them, and they die right in front of God. This fire came from him, and it killed them. And Moses says to Aaron, "This is what God spoke, saying, I will be sanctified in those who are close to me." That's temple language there, right? You're drawing near. "And before all the people, I will be glorified." And Aaron was silent. Okay, so I'm starting this talk today with a question. Is everything going to be okay? And my answer is yes, it's already okay. But yes, it will be okay. No matter what, it will be okay. And here's the part of the Torah portion. They went and did what they wanted, and they got devoured and died. Moshe says, hey, this is what was said. And Aaron is like saying nothing. And his sons are dead. Okay. Wow, that's a huge one. People hate that story. But I want to show you something about this that I find so amazing. And it takes us into what I call garden language. So there's a word that really just hammers at me here to look at it. It's really calling out to me. And it's that word for like consumed or devoured. So the fire that went out from him, from God, it consumed, it devoured them. Okay. Now, what's the big thing that happened here? Well, first, it's a big deal that they went against this very specified ritual way of what to do, when to do, how to do it. They did what they wanted. They felt they could do that. They had, is this bravery, stupidity, arrogance? I don't know. But they had it in their minds that they could approach this sacred, set apart, holy place where the creator of the universe dwells with man, and they could do what they wanted, not what he wanted. So that's a big deal. So that's huge. And then what's the huge consequence? They got devoured. It isn't just that they died. It's that a fire came out from God and devoured them. That's a big thing. So that's what we need to look at, because that's really the huge piece here to look at. They got devoured. So that word, we're going to look at that word. Where's the first time we see that word? That's one of the massive points of attachment, right? The law first mentioned is an attachment protocol. That's how we are with our parents or with our friends, whatever. You told me you were an orphan. And so when your feelings got hurt, when I was late, I'm going to go back to the history and the original first mention of who are you? Well, my first issue that I do deal with is I was an orphan. And when you're late, I get scared. Well, you can put that into context. The law of first mention is the law of everything. Okay? That's how we create definitions. It's how we create meanings, context in every way in life, not just reading the Bible. It's not like this handy tool we pull out to read the Word of God. It's the way logic operates. It's the way it's the order of things in our realm that we need to understand. That word shows up first in Genesis 2:16. Now, you and I, we go through Genesis 2:16, don't we? We talk about that a lot. And this word is only used ever about the tree, about eating off the tree. That's it. You go through all in Genesis, that word is always used in regard to the tree you can eat from and the tree you can't eat from. Very specifically, consume, to take in. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. What's the big lesson there in the law of first mention of what I always talk about with you, right? Let's go back to where I come from. I come from the place that says that God the Father, who is so good, gave you the tree of life, and he gave you the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And Chava wanted to be like God, being able to judge good and evil while she's not qualified, was commanded not even try to think she could be by any means. And she tried to be like God, and she couldn't be. And you warned her, if you try to be like me, you will die. You will never measure up, and I want you to love yourself and your neighbor. That's a problem. You don't know what I know, even about yourself. You certainly don't know about other people. And I am on the throne, you're not. You're either the created or the creator. And there's only one creator. So be the created. And the Father enjoys that. The Father has joy in interacting with you and striving with you and walking with you and wrestling life with you. But you can't be God. And so when we get into garden language with this big event that they got eaten, they got devoured, what does this tell me? What were they doing? They were doing exactly what Hava did. In this area, which I believe the garden is where the temple is, that for some reason, Aaron is the brother of Moshe, the priesthood, the Cohen, the top, right? And they thought, you know what? I'm guessing. I don't know if this is what they thought, but I'm going to take my humanity and take it out for a spin here. They thought, our dad is Moshe's brother. We have some pull here. We have a better idea, or at least an equal idea, of what could be good in the temple, the place where we get near to God. Now, the way he said to do it, we're going to alter that, and we're going to prescribe it, and we're going to go do it. And what does the Father do? First of all, they die, and he consumes them. The fire comes out and consumes them. The idea is that he ate them, brought them into him. I don't know. I think that's a positive thing. If you're going to go anywhere, get consumed into God, because he's got to restore you. I know that's a metaphorical idea, but still not an attachment idea. That the Father is about the restoration of all things. That is what his goal is. He says that. If you're going to restore all things, that's just a declarative and just in-depth, just complete declarative statement of his goal. It's implicit in its overarching meaning of restoration. And this takes us back to that word that's used over and over about eating from that tree. So when you have whatever this arrogance would be, that we're so important, we can do it our way, the Father has got to remind you, no, you can't. And that's where we're getting this, where Moshe says to Aaron, now his nephews were just consumed by fire. And he says to Aaron, this is what God spoke. He says, I will be sanctified. I will be set apart in those who are close to me. And before all people, I will be glorified. Now, when he's glorified in front of all people are safe. Because then they see how powerful he is. And they stop trying to be him. They lean on him. They interact with him. They have a relationship with him. And they walk truth out. And it's beautiful. The more the Father is glorified, the better for everybody involved. But set apart means I'm not like you. You're not like me. We weren't supposed to be. You're human and I'm God. And I never made you even to me. And when you think you can be, you will die. I'm the responsible party and I take care of you. You don't need to perform, take care of me. You devote and provide devotion. That's what he likes. Because when you worship him, he deserves your worship. He's worthy of your worship. He delights in it. And I think he is so joy-filled at that worship because it shows you know who Daddy is. You're not going to try to be your own dad. Can you wrap your heart and head around this? That's called good parenting. Now, he's in charge of all life and taking it into himself and restoring it. So death isn't the worst thing that's ever going to happen. And in fact, it's going to happen. A physical death. But what's important to know here is Moshe says to Aaron, now they just walked through the parting of the Red Sea. Okay? They saw a miracle. They know this is a good God. But for whatever reason, Aaron's sons went in and did their own thing. And this process reversed on them. They were consumed. But it harkens us back to that tree. And everybody needed a reminder, you're not God. You're not God for yourself. You're not God for your neighbor. You're not God for God. We take on all of these burdens. The Messiah says, my burden is not heavy. My yoke is light. I'm not asking you to be me. I'm telling you, I'll give you some power I have. But status, you'll always be the created. On the 8th day, there'll be status changes that he ordains and he does. But if you labor through this world trying to equal to him, to be better than him, whatever, the adversary, the example of what is adversarial is trying to be like or better than him. But we want to pat ourselves on the back, and I'm not condemning us. What I'm saying is I'm condemning that. We want to pat ourselves on the back. Look what we did. We were like God. See, we can do this. I don't need God. How is that when you're a parent and your child says, I don't need my parents telling me how to eat? Have you ever had a 5-year-old say that? And then they eat a bag of M&Ms and they're sick? But how much more endearing is it when there's a bag of M&Ms in front of them, all their friends are partaking and eating the whole bag, and they're like, well, it looks good, it tastes good, I bet I would love it, but my dad said not to, and I love my dad, and he knows what's good for me, and I trust my dad, so I'm not going to eat that. You imagine the dad, they're like, oh, melting inside, like, oh my gosh, right? Like, it's my child. Such a bond there with this parent-child relationship. And the Father uses that metaphor for us. So Moshe says, this is what God spoke. He didn't even say, like, more generically, hey, it's a commandment. He said, this is what God himself specifically spoke about what to do. And then he says, I will be sanctified in those who are close to me. We're going to talk about that when we get into the Brit Hadashah next, a little tiny snippet there to connect this. It's all connected. But he's going to be set apart. And the people who get him and understand their own self-worth as beautifully created beings by God, God created these people, when you get your head around that and your heart around that and you understand that and everybody knows their place, God always knows his when you know yours, which is the apple of his eye, his whole world really. When you get that you're that loved, there's responsibility that comes with love. And if that's dad, you're the kid. So he says he's going to be set apart in those who get him, who know who they are and who he is. And then before all these people, he's going to be lifted up so they can see him. He'll be visible. And Aaron was silent. Now his boys just got devoured. He didn't say anything. He knew. I think he knew. I think he was going through a massive arc of grief, and yet everything was okay still. Because when you see power like that operate right in front of you, and that's what's in charge of everything, you're like, okay, I'm just going to trust it's all good. That's trust, right? Right in front of them. So that leads us to, let me take a little piece here in Matthew. Okay, so the Torah portions, that we do have the Brit Hadashah kind of segmented for our use here. And we're in Matthew 3:11. He says, I baptize you with water for repentance. Right, so it's an outward act of your contrition, of tshuva, right? Turning toward Yehovah, toward God, right? But he who is coming after me, and this is Yohanan the Immerser, this is John the Baptist, so he who is coming after me is mightier than I. What a huge sentence. Yeshua is mightier than me. I can't be Yeshua. I can't pretend to be as important as him. I don't want to be. He is mightier than I, whose sandals I'm not even worthy to carry. And he will baptize you with the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and fire. Here we get fire again. It's interesting because we get the breath in the garden that he shows that he walks in the garden in the cool of the day. That was like in the spirit. He will baptize you with the Comforter and fire. Fire consumes stuff, burns stuff off, cleanses stuff. His winnowing fork is in his hand. He's using an agricultural farming example that people get and people know, right? Because people winnowed, okay? And he will clear his threshing floor and gather his wheat into the barn once that's happened. But the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. So the chaff would be the parts of us that do need to go. The false self. You're going to be baptized by fire. Right? Baptism, going to that place of death and coming out again. That's that place of death to that place of life. Fire cleans, cleanses, refines. So then Yeshua comes from Galilee to the Jordan to John to be baptized by him, to go to that place of death, to that place of life. Now to symbolize, now Yeshua had no repentance because he was sinless. But did he follow the prescription of the baptismal outward symbol? Yes. John would have prevented him by saying, I need to be baptized by you, but you come to me? And Yeshua says to him, let it be so now, for thus it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness. So John consents. This is what he means when and it says he consents. He says, you're Yeshua and you're right. Okay, that makes sense to me. But you're right. So I don't get this, and I think I have a better idea, but I'm not God, but you are. So what I'll do is what you say, your way, even though it seems really weird. So after Yeshua was baptized, immediately he went up from the water, from that place of death, and behold, the heavens were opened to him. So you see, remember that fire came down and consumed them? Here the fire is open. You can just almost feel like this breath of fresh, holy air, right? And he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and coming to rest on him. And behold, a voice from heaven said, this is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased. He was doing everything right, just the way the Father wanted it to go. Isn't that powerful? This idea of being baptized by fire. Now, Aaron's sons were baptized by fire, and the chaff was taken out away, and they died in the process. I would say that their death was their healing, that they weren't going to be restored in any other way. And in the first and best resurrection, or in that second resurrection, whichever is going on, who knows what they learned in that second? I just don't know. But I do know that when they thought that they could do it their way, they denied their humanity. They rejected God's authority. They put themselves in danger. And it was not for the group to see that he would be gentle on that, because he will be set apart and glorified. It's very important when they say a prophet isn't known in their hometown. It's because, say I'm a prophet. I'm not saying I am. What I'm saying is the people who knew me in my yellow snowsuit when I was 4 might not think I have anything to say prophetic. I might actually say something about the Bible. It's true, which is really what prophecy is. Here's what the Bible says. This will happen. And it might say, well, I remember when Robin, was in her little yellow snowsuit making snowmans. I mean, I'm not really in a big rush to hear what she thinks is happening. Have you ever warned people about things that are going to hurt them? But they only know you as a kid. They used to know. And then they're like, oh, should have listened to Robin. Well, that's what's happening here. Was this a gift to the people? Yes. When we fear the Lord, we know that guardrail is there for a reason. It's not made of noodles. And my car will be open like a can opener on the side when I infract it. And if it isn't there, opening my car side like a can opener, I'm going to go down the bank. I will die. When I try to be God, God sees what's ahead. God sees what's behind. God sees what's buried underneath. God operates in the darkness. He knows what's in the dark. Things we don't even know about ourselves, he knows. He knows you. He knows everything about you, me, our neighbor. He knows everything about Iran's sons, everything about Iran, everything about Moshe. He knows their grievings. He knows their losses. He knows their strengths. He knows their potential. He knows their failures. He knows their habits. He knows their cognitive functions and their leanings. He knows their personality. I was talking to a group of beautiful, wonderful ladies this morning, and we were talking about the difference between good and evil is for the creator on the throne who made all the people and is omnipresent. We can judge right and wrong, but not good and evil. And I've said that on this program 150 times. But I keep having to say that because I want you to know that even when you read a story like this, where Aaron's sons are just consumed in by fire, that it's okay. That this Bible is not something that we always understand, but what we do know is it's good, and everything God does is to restore all things. This story is to restore you. If it scares you a little bit, blessed be the name. We need to be a little bit scared, right? I was like that with my dad. The belt came out on the belt loops, like, and good. I'm glad, because guess what? He didn't hit me with it, but you'd hear that and you'd be, okay, I'm not going to do whatever I was about to do, which was probably wrong and going to hurt me, right? We're supposed to obey our parents, honor our parents. And so when we read stories that just are shocking to us, it really isn't that shocking. I don't think when you look at it in context, first of all, we have to take the garden language and go back and say, wow, there's definitely a message here we need to learn. We need to remember that we're not in charge. And what a gift to know that. And if you've ever felt liberated by just reminding yourself each day, I am not God, I am not in control. I say that to myself every day, and every day I'm reminded that I need to hear it and I need to be released from that false role I give myself of thinking I need to be. Chava was the same way. She wanted to be like God. And then when she was hiding, it was because she was confounded about who she was. And she thought she had to hide from him, not run out and get help. She forgot who she was. She was a daughter of the king. She was his creation. She was loved and safe. But she was confounded. She was ashamed. So she hid from the only protection she had. We can't learn that that's good and that we should do that. There has to be consequences to say, okay, out of the garden now. Toil and work through this difficult planet. I'm here though, and I am your safety. But you've got to know that you're not your own safety. And attachment speaks to this. Attachment speaks to safety and trust. A parent that meets the needs of their child. When a parent is consistent, when a parent is invested, the child attaches to the parent, finds safety, and it gives them the ability to explore as appropriate. It's appropriate to explore and even push the envelope and push and try to figure it out and wrestle in our lives with our humanity. Right? That's our job as people, is to interact with our Father and learn where the boundaries are, what the sovereignty looks like. What am I sovereign over? What is he sovereign over? He's given me responsibility. He's given me tasks. He's given me a curriculum. He's given me a destiny, a future, a hope. The only way I'm going to find that is I'm going to make some mistakes. Now, the Lamb was slain at the foundation of the world, so your mistakes are good. They're fine. You're not going to do it perfectly. He never expected that, or before the first man, he wouldn't have provided the remedy for what they wouldn't do right. He's a good father who loves his children, and he gets that you are not perfect. And that fact is, if you could get that, you'd be better off. You don't know all the things. But when we are believing anything other than we are safe and loved by our Father, but we must remember our place, we are operating in our true self. Our true self is as a child of God. That's the kingdom of God. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's in your midst. And the people who can see it are the people who are near him. Now, we go in and out of seasons, and if you're working through stuff, hey, I bet that next season you're going to see it. I hope you do. I think there's seasons I see it better than others. But every time I think of that tree, and I think of my parents standing there, don't eat off this. Yeah, but I kind of want to be my own parent. I'm not condemning you, nor is he. How can he condemn that which he's already sent the answer to? But he does condemn that action. And there will be fire. There will be refining. There will be burning of the chaff. All the false stuff that needs to come off so the beautiful fruit is there. Right? So when we read Leviticus, right, we get all upset. He needs all the dead animals. That's so mean. While we're chomping on a burger. That actually happened to me one time. I remember I was in a restaurant with somebody, and they were it was funny because I wasn't bringing anything up about God, because it was just like a old friend, and they were talking like, so I hear you teach stuff. Yeah. And, just kind of lightly touch on it, just to, don't want conflict. I just wanted to kind of reconnect with this person. Didn't have an agenda or anything, just wanting to be loving and be with them. And they were like, well, I'd be all in, but that whole weird thing about that bloodthirsty God, like he needed that, and he wanted animals dead like that. I don't like that. And then they take a bite of this big hamburger. I was like, okay. The only difference was you were really grateful for the death of the animal, taking, you read the prescriptions in Leviticus, like you really got to get a picture that something died so you could live, right? And when we get that picture, the seriousness of our sin rests upon us as it should. That is not a burden and not a yoke. That is a gift, and that is a liberation. Anytime you're reminded that you are loved and safe and created, you will stop trying to perform your way or drink your way or shop your way or exercise your way or study your way into your worth. You can't do it. It's implicit in that you are the created person of Elohim. You can't even have access to your value. Your hands can't even get in there and touch it. There's no break in case of emergency, break glass. There's no glass to break. It's there. There's no little Beauty and the Beast rose with the things. You can't get to it. You are secure in the fact that you are valuable because the Creator made you. That's amazing. Enjoy that. Yeah, you do come out pretty good on that, don't you? But that doesn't mean it's wrong at all. So when we read this and we see what's happening, it's not just like, well, that's what you get when you do the wrong thing. I think it's bigger, way bigger than that. I think it's the Father reversed that and is showing you may not eat freely of that tree because that takes away who you are to yourself in your own mind. But it doesn't change anything. I still love you. But what's your life when you think you need to be me? You're certainly not going to be you doing what I'm asking you to do, walking into your gifts and your destinies and your skills. You're going to be busy sorting out all the problems you're going to create in your life trying to be me because the Father knows things you don't know. He's your Father. I was just mentioning this morning with this group of ladies. On my blog, newcovenantpath.com, I have this blog. It's called You're You and I'm Too. And it just kind of talks about like what it feels like to be a human and to have a God that is way, way, way smarter than me. And I think people want God to be so understandable, but at the same time, how terrifying if he was. If he and I were on the same level, I made 4 mistakes just today of things that, I forgot to pay that or whatever I did. I mean, thankfully, he continues to remind me to know my place because that's where I'm safe and I'm always loved. There's no losers there. But what do we lose when we think we can approach him and just deny the truth of who we are, who he is? How can that be dealt with in any way except fire? Because when you're baptized by water and fire, that to me is such a beautiful message. Now, fire is a word, a big deal word. And yes, I don't like picturing this consumption of these 2 men. I don't think Aaron or Moshe or anyone likes seeing it. But at the same time, doesn't it? And they're in his hands. He's going to do the righteous thing. He's a perfect righteous judge. Not worried about the wonderful decision that our perfect creator makes in his goal to restore all things. I let that go. I don't even put any thought into that at all. My thoughts go into loving my Father and trusting that he said he made me very good and I am, without all the stuff I'm trying to bring to the table. He's already made me the way he wants me. So there's accepting the way he's made me, and then there's trying to be him with those things rather than submitting to his authority and sovereignty where I'm not safe anymore. You see, it's a circuitous situation. We have to wrap our heads around this circle of life, this perfect number 8, if you will, this infinite love story. You be you, I be me, and the rest is all going to happen in his time. Leviticus tells you everything's okay. I'm near you. I want it done a certain way because I'm smarter than you, which makes you safe in my care. And it also keeps you all on the same playing field here. All you people, you all don't know stuff. You know some stuff, but you don't all know the same stuff. So don't worship each other, right? And those little G gods and all these first century churches getting all the letters. These were all the gods that were like, hate yourself, and then we'll see that we don't kill all your people. That's the opposite of our God. Know how good I made you and stop trying to add to it. You can't. You're not a creator of people. You give birth to people that I create. And you need to know that so you can rest in it and be strong. And there's the joy of the Lord is in your strength. And what's your strength? Knowing who is strong. Him. He is strong. And he gives you grace and gifts, and he gives you strength. He gives you these things. We can't confuse that with value and earning. So the Torah laws don't save anyone. They never did. And when we dismiss them, we are in danger, because he set this universe up the way he wanted it. He give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, right? He gives you the keys. So you know how to use it, how to unlock all the good stuff, right? And you're going to toil. We are going to toil. Let's see if there's any questions here. Got a couple people here sorry about the ring light. Hi, Laura Lee. She said she caught, I'm glad you caught the live show. Welcome. And let's see this podcast. Yes, Laura Lee, we are going to talk about that. I'm definitely interested in doing that. Thank you. And we have been I think we've been playing messenger tag. I think you caught me. I got you. And there's Ellen Watson. Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad to see. I just love seeing, especially the repeat people. It's so much fun to see them being here. And so when you look at Leviticus, remember, it means to join and draw near and be together, right? This isn't supposed to make you feel like God's so intimidating that you can never connect with him. It's supposed to make you know he's so complicated to your 2-year-old mind that you better connect with him. You know what I mean? It's supposed to bring you into safety. It's the ultimate shepherding. It's the ultimate, you go you look at something complicated. I think recently I used the cockpit of a plane. It's wow, you must be highly trained and well trained to operate something that's that complicated. Wow. You put your trust in the pilot. They're learned. Well, I think the temple displays this glory of something way beyond us. At the same time, it brings the beauty of ritual, repetitive ritual, where we can find ourselves against things that continue to be redundantly done with a fresh heart. I think the temple is such an amazing way to understand what we don't understand, so that we will always know our place. And I just love the whole system of the temple. I love the way they do it. I love that the priesthood is born into it. So it's not like this game of earning that role. They even drew lots to see who would serve in the temple. Everything was fair and not a preference. And so these are important concepts that I feel like are woven in to how we can connect, Levi, right? Connect to these processes. And in process of doing that, we let go of these false selves and all these things where we walk into this intimidating situation and we think, I really don't have anything to offer here, so I'm going to back down. And what's going to rise up in you? Your true self. That's what rises up when you're intimidated. If you don't let the judge, the controller, the whatever false self is it that you bring out when you're intimidated. But when you are in that proper fear of the Lord and you're in that presence and you back down off all the puppets of yourself you erect to cope and self-regulate. But when you let that all go and you say, I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know. Here's the prescription. I'm going to do it. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what will happen. That's where we get safe. That's where we let go. So, and then he talks about being a sanctuary in your midst, right? Being a sanctuary in your midst. That's that kingdom, I believe, that kingdom of God in you, that as a child, when you back down, hey, I'm two. I get it. You're the parent. I'm the kid. That's the kingdom of heaven. He who has ears, let him hear. Eyes, let him see. Back down. Let go of all the things adults learn to do to cover up that they're a kid and be born again. I really want this to encourage you. I want this to minister to you. I want this to remind you that everything is going to be okay. Everything is okay, even in this moment, no matter what's happening. I know we go through very painful things and we lose people and we struggle and people are going through heinous painful losses. I get it. The price we pay for love's a big one. It is. And this is a very difficult planet to traverse. But it is made infinitely easier when you know you have a God who makes it okay. No matter what is happening, it'll be okay. And we are commissioned to remind each other of this and to serve each other in this way. Remind each other in this way. Say nice things to each other. Remind people you are a creation of God. You do not have to earn your love. You can't. That cup is overfull as it is with love. Already from the foundation of the world. Before you made your first mistake, you were loved all the way through. Not even a tiny little dent. Not even tiny. Anyway, so I wanted to share that with you today because the future begins now to believe this, right? To embrace this. I need people to remind me of this, right? Every day. I need to know this. But fire will consume things because we consumed and we continue to consume what we are told not to eat. But that fire, let that chaff go and burn. That clean my threshing floor, Father. But here's what I say. Be careful what you pray for. I always say this, Father. Clean that threshing floor. And if you could do it a little bit gently, I would, you know how that is, right? Because we're frail, wailing, flailing humans. And we are afraid, right? And so when he says, fear not, he's not judging you if you're afraid. He's comforting you. Fear not. Yeah. I have overcome the world. In this world where you face trouble, fear not, I have overcome. So he is your overcomer. You're not your own, but leaning on him, you're going to draw that strength, that love, and he is that menorah that lights you. It's a beautiful thing. So don't be afraid to read Leviticus. Don't be afraid to read about the temple. Don't be afraid to read these stories that just kind of take you back and shock you. They're supposed to shock you. You're two. You don't know what fireworks are on the 4th of July. It's boom booms that scare you. And your dad kind of holds you and you're like shaking like, but that's it. You know, and you're 6 and you like the boom boom, right? It's all kind of that story. And remember, your story, your book of days is being written right now. And so embrace the love. Let yourself be loved. Because guess what? It's happening without your permission. So you might as well soak it in. So anyway, until next week, I can't wait to see you again. Can't wait to share with you how loved you are. And at the same time, remind us to stick within the sovereignty of the Father because he is on the throne and everything is okay. And remember that the future begins now. Bye.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.